Right, hello. It's Sunday and it's CBT Part 3. Sorry about the delay from last week. It was our English bank holidays, so therefore we couldn't go ahead with that one. But here it is today. So sorry for the delay. As you can see, we're going to have a massive debate tonight with all the people on the panel. I'm sure they'll come along soon enough. But if not, obviously the Q&A is open. So don't forget to go into Google Plus if you're watching this on YouTube. Should be a link on the left-hand side. You can go to Google Plus and ask questions, put in comments, and any other useful information you want to pass on to us for us to discuss. Now, we're up to section 6, I believe, of the document, which discusses the changes that may come about for the CBD tests. CBT training, sorry. So I think without any further ado, we can crack on with the next section, which is section 6. If you're watching this and you want to take part and you're in the Hangout group on Skype, then you can follow the link there that we put up and you should be able to get in. If you can't get in, let us know and we'll sort you out. Okay.
Okay.
All right, over to Mrs. B then.
So section 6 is looking at future considerations, and one of the future considerations is relating to progressive access. Basically, progressive access allows bikers to get access to bigger bikes by way of training, usually based on age. Well, generally based on age. So there is a really useful website, it's a government one, I can't remember what the link is, but that explains what bike you can ride when and what training you need to do before you can move on to a bigger bike. If you're over 24, then you can go straight onto a big bike. So basically, the considerations relate to, there's the possibility of a new IT system which would allow the DVSA to record progressive training. Currently only CBT and DAS are covered. It's been suggested that DAS instructors voluntarily undertake standards checks. To make that a mandatory requirement would require amendments to the regulations. However, it's been suggested that any motorcycle training, including progressive access, should only be provided by certified instructors who are subject to these regulations. So the question is, what are your thoughts on quality assurance for all types of licensed training? What quality assurance would you like to see, or do you think it's sufficient as it currently stands, Mr. D?
So at the moment you're saying that it's voluntary?
No.
In terms of?
No, the voluntary standards checks are to do with the, what was it called? We talked about it last time. It was to do with, what was it called? The thingy status.
What, their star grade level?
Earned recognition status. So they can undergo a voluntary check for earned recognition status.
Right.
So to make that mandatory would require an amendment to regulations. So yeah. Okay,
so
basically, I think what it's saying is, if you do progressive access, you don't have to have a DAS trained instructor instruct you.
Right. Okay.
And do you think you should?
Well, I would have said, yeah, I'd want someone that's been certified as a proper trainer. And also in terms of quality, they haven't suggested, have they, anywhere how they would go about testing that quality?
No, that's what they're asking people
how
to
they would
do
it. Oh, I think it would have to be like the mystery shopper thing that we discussed last week or the week before.
Last time,
yes. On basically an instructor or even a tester on the actual full test to go and check out the quality of each driving school stroke instructors. Riding school, yeah, obviously, sorry. So yeah, I think that would be the best way. And if you're watching this and you only got any ideas on how you could test the quality of training for riding. Please do put them in the comments as well, and we'll have a look. It's a bit of a quiet start tonight. Hopefully it'll warm up, and obviously any questions or comments, put them in the Q&A on Google+, which is where you can find this hangout as well.
Okay, move on to the next one. This is one that I know you'll start about. Down-trained CBT instructors.
Right.
Should there be any changes to the scope and duration of a down-trained CBT instructor? Their qualification or certification is currently valid for 4 years. And do you have confidence in the ability of a down-trained CBT instructor?
Well, that's that's all based on who down-trains them.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, they just train their friends. And then obviously it lasts 4 years, which I think is quite a long time, without going to check that they're up to date on all the latest guidance and everything else. And there needs to be something, I take it there's nothing there at the moment where they like report in that they're keeping up to date with all the latest standards.
I don't know, but I would assume that that's just done in-house at the riding school.
Right. Again, the onus is on the riding school.
I don't know. I think.
Oh, didn't you say something about that they have to stay with the riding school?
That was my understanding, that a down-trained CBT instructor has to stay with the riding school that train them.
Okay, so they can't go off on their own and start doing CBTs without any monitoring, I suppose, which is a start, isn't it? So yeah, but I think really, I don't, the whole down training thing, I don't think is something that should really be, I wouldn't be confident with you, for example, being trained by someone that had been down trained. I'd rather have a fully legit, fully licensed trainer, because they'll know how to answer all your questions, no matter what they are.
Well, not necessarily.
Well, you would hope that they could answer all the questions relevant to riding and passing your test. You know, and any questions about how to ride on the road and what to look for and what not to look for and all that. So I think if I wanted to have a CBT, if I was ever going to do a CBT for whatever reason, pretend I didn't know anything, I'd want to be taught by a fully fledged instructor that covered the whole full.
They've done the full training themselves.
Yeah, up to advanced level. I don't know what the full thing's called, but anyway, up to advanced rider level, and not just CBT. What do you think this would be?
It all depends on the quality of their instruction, of how they're taught, and how they are as a teacher, which we've talked about in previous weeks, where some people will just go through the checklist, make sure you can do all the things on the checklist, and that's it. And they're not really capable or don't have any skills in adapting that to the individual. And there's a little bit about that a bit later on. But if you're just going to go through a checklist, I think the quality of training is going to be less than with a CBT instructor who's done the full training, potentially.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no guarantee that the person who's gone down to
Wales.
No, it's not Wales, is it? I think it's in Oxfordshire. Anyway, wherever it is, there's no guarantee that that person's going to be a particularly good instructor, but one would hope that they're not awarded CBT instructor qualification without being able to adapt to the training.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is my thought. And I think 4 years is too long.
For it to stay valid for?
Yeah.
Maybe I'd say probably 2 years is max.
Yeah. I think down training, I think it should only be 12 months.
Oh, if it's down training, yeah. Yeah, 12
As a
months.
down trained instructor, I think it should be 12 months. Personally.
How long does the CBT last for?
2 years. But there's a question about that later.
Oh, right, I was going to say, because you think it would match up, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If you've been down trained as a CBT person and the CBT lasts 2 years, then so should their down training. As a minimum, if we was to go along with down training in the first place.
Okay, so restricting riding to automatic cycles if a CBT was taken on an automatic. Currently, completion of CBT on an automatic motorcycle or moped allows the rider to ride a small manual motorcycle on the road. We're concerned that an inexperienced rider with little or no experience of riding a geared machine with the associated control skills required may pose a risk to themselves and other users, other road users. So the question is, what they want feedback on is the proposals are to either restrict them to an automatic until an upgrade session is taken. So like with a car, if you pass your driving test in an automatic car, you can't drive a manual. Yeah. So to do the same, or put a note on the CBT certificate to state that the training was done on an automatic bike, and it's strongly recommended that further training is taken before a manual machine is ridden. What are your thoughts?
I don't think anybody that goes and has a CBT on an automatic bike should ever be let near a geared bike until they've passed on a geared bike, because of the whole clutch and everything, gears, the whole thing. I can't understand how it is possible that someone can go and ride a scooter, an automatic scooter, or similar. I mean, you can get some automatic motorbikes as well, and then go on to ride a manual without having to take a test for geared is insane. And one of the things that grates on me, as you know, is to see someone going on a blooming chicken chaser on a twist and go, do their CBT, and then jump on a bike with gears, and then they wonder why they go and kill themselves or whatever. So yeah, absolutely, it should not be possible to ride a manual bike unless you've taken your test on a manual bike. End of. Is my thoughts on it.
And I would wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. And what do the viewers think? Do you think that you should be able to ride a manual bike after passing your test on an automatic? And has anybody actually, even if anyone's actually watching that has taken their CBT on an automatic bike and then gone on to ride a manual bike? That would be interesting to find out as well.
And also, is there anything that you'd like to propose is done differently about this? Personally, I would say scrap doing the CBT on a twist and go. Make everyone do it on a geared, and then they've got the option.
Yeah.
Would be my proposal on that one.
Yeah, I think when it comes to taking any tests, the test has to be done on a manual geared bike. Absolutely. Because I just can't see the logic on how you can let someone ride a twist and go and then go out and get a geared bike. It's crazy. Especially if they're is it 23 or whatever it is, and then like quick fast track from a twist and go to. No,
you have to do your mod 1 and mod 2 on a geared bike.
Oh, do you? So it's only the CBT.
I don't know if you have to. I don't know how that works.
Find out.
But most places won't let you do it on an automatic.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I still don't think that on a twist and go CBT, no, you have to do it on a geared bike, and then if you want to go and get a twist and go afterwards, fine. Unless,
of course, it's for someone who has a disability that means that they can't physically ride a geared bike.
Yeah, well, I know people that have got disabilities that can still ride geared. They can have modified bikes, so it can still be manual even if you've got a disability. And we know a young lady, don't we, who's only got one arm, and so she's got the brake and clutch on the same side of the handlebar by where the throttle is. So you can get your bikes modified anyway, and she rides a Ducati, believe it or not. So that's all good. But yeah, I mean, if there is a disability that can't be overcome by modification, then they're not going to ride a manual anyway, are they? I guess.
No, so they shouldn't be forced to do a test on the manual.
No, yeah,
that's
obviously.
What I'm getting at.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
Because you don't want to exclude riders who want to ride but physically can't ride a geared bike.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's meant to be about getting more people on bikes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So common sense there.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
But these are government proposals, so you can assume that there's no common sense.
Yeah, it's kind of by the by.
Okay. Researchers found that many trainers thought a flexible approach should be available to trainees who show they already have a thorough knowledge of the highway code and driving theory matters. They suggested that these riders should be exempt from theory elements. Some trainers also thought that repeat CBT candidates, who might be considered as experienced riders, should be able to demonstrate continued competence by only undertaking the road ride element of the course.
Right.
What do you think?
So the first question in my head is, how do you know that someone knows their highway code?
Exactly.
You know, do you know your highway code? Yeah, all right then, off you go. That's a bit crazy. Or, you know, I mean, I must admit, when I did my test long time ago.
Way back when all this were fields.
Yeah. We got shown 3 signs or 3 things, or asked 3 questions from the highway code. If we got them right, that was it. On you go. And it was often the shown 3 signs and 1 general question. Quite often about you lose your luggage on the motorway, what do you do? But there we go. And the answer is not to stop, go back and try and pick it up out of the motorway.
Really?
Yeah, strange that. Anyway, so that's the question that you normally got, and then that was it. You was fine and dandy. So how a school can qualify and say, right, we didn't do any of the highway code because this person looked like they knew their highway code. It would make much more sense for them to take that test, whatever that test is called.
To do the theory test.
The theory
before
test.
the CBT, which we've talked about again, and it had a lot
Before
of support
CBT.
from the panel.
Yeah.
When we had a panel, if anyone's watching and laughing their asses off and saying, let's see how long they can keep going without us, please just come and join us.
Yes. The link's in Skype. If anyone's watching and wants to join the course, yes, you can send us a message on Skype and you can come and join us. And the Skype address is mrb4busser@gmail.com.
Or brain dump.
Yeah, and if you've got any comments on about what we spoke about already, or anything that we've spoken about so far, then please do post a comment or question on Google+, which is attached to this video.
Okay. DVSA and the government have consistently said that learner riders should develop their skills and go on to take a test for a full motorcycle licence, rather than continue as lifelong learners or repeat CBTers. We are concerned that this option of not making them cover the theory part, especially if they've already got a CBT, we're concerned that this option could have the effect of encouraging this and discourage new riders from taking further training in preparation for taking their tests.
Yeah, so is this where they can perpetually just ride?
Well, you can just keep doing your CBT every 2 years.
Yeah, so you could ride forever and never take your highway code test, your theory test.
Yeah.
Which is ludicrous. So, and what was the actual question on that one?
So the question is, do you think that would happen? Do you think that by reducing the scope of the CBT for someone who can prove that they've got prior knowledge, do you think it would encourage people to just keep taking the CBTs and discourage them from doing a big bike test?
I think the problem is in the question is that they can't prove that they know their theory without taking the theory test. So it's almost a moot point in the fact that really they should be taking their theory test first before they go on the CBT. Because there is a cost associated with the theory, isn't there?
There's cost associated with everything. There's cost associated with the CBT, with the theory test, with all the mock tests at the different stages through the staged access.
But yeah, I think personally for me, it's a moot point. I think that people should take their theory before they go and do their CBT. And that way, when they pass their CBT, they've got all the tools they need to know, you know, what a red traffic light is, for example, what does that mean, before they go out on the road. So therefore, it will make sense. What do you think?
I agree. It's not something that I can even play devil's advocate on because it's just daft. How can you assess someone's knowledge? All right, mate, you know the highway code? Yes.
Yeah.
What does this sign mean? Brilliant. Let's crack on the road. Really?
Yeah.
And also, the bit about going straight to the road test or the road ride, not test because it's training, the assessment on the road, that to me says that they're not going to do the slow manoeuvres, which I think are key for showing your skill as a rider, as well as being able to ride in traffic and everything else. Being able to perform slow manoeuvres shows you've got good control over the bike, and I do think that should still be part of it, even for an experienced rider.
Yeah, I think they should, because there's a part. Is it 2 parts? The slow manoeuvres.
Basically, yeah, you do your sit down bit at the beginning where you talk about highway code, road position, safety gear.
Right.
Then you go and do slow manoeuvres in the car park.
Okay.
And then once you've done your slow manoeuvres, you go out and do your road ride.
Right. And we're talking about here is trying to force someone that's done their CBT before.
Yeah.
To skip the slow manoeuvres bit and just go straight on the road.
And everything else.
Yeah. Again, it's the same problem, isn't it? Is that there's no way you can prove without seeing them do their slow manoeuvres whether or not they can do their slow manoeuvres.
Yeah. And if you do them straight off, if you do your figure of 8 and you're turning round corners and stuff straight off, then it's off on the road. It's not a major bother to do it.
No, exactly. Just do that quick assault course on the bike. Don't forget to use the clutch, and and then they're good to go out on the road, I guess. Again, it's down to the instructor, isn't it?
But that's good. To me, that's common sense. But we can't assume that common sense would be used in this kind of thing. No,
we can't. And it would help if, again, we go back to the fact that they already signed and got their certificate for those areas of riding before they went out on the road.
Yeah. Okay, the validity period of a CBT certificate then. Limiting the validity period might encourage more riders to go on to take more training and do the big bike test. One suggestion has been for a rider's first CBT certificate to remain valid for 2 years, but thereafter be reduced to 1 year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think...
Because that way, it's going to make it more of a pain in the arse for people who just keep doing the CBT.
To have to do it every year.
Yeah.
And I'd probably go one better and just make it a 1 year flat. You take your CBT, it lasts for a year. If you don't, basically reduce it from 2 years to 1.
Yeah, across the board.
Across the board. That way, it would encourage, I think, people just to take their tests and get off them. I
don't know, because my CBT runs out in August this year. That's how long ago it is since I did my CBT.
Right, but how much does it cost to do a CBT?
100 quid. So I'd just go, I'll just do it again.
£100 a year. Okay, but I think it would encourage some.
Yeah.
To stop, having to do that continual cycle of doing your tests again. And again, I'll ask the viewers, what do you think?
While you ask the viewers and do that spiel again, I'm just going to get some juice.
Okay. So what do you think about what we've discussed so far? Any comments or thoughts on that? What do you think about having the CBT once a year, every year, until you pass? And obviously the other things that we talked about, the down training and so on. Your thoughts would be interesting to hear and to have. And
I think we should just check the email, because it seems very odd to me that we've been on air now for half an hour. We've got quite a lot of viewers and we've not had a single question or comment.
Yeah.
That does seem a little bit odd.
If you're watching and you haven't got a question, just send something like test us to let us know.
Just let us know it's working.
It's working. That'll be handy.
Where am I going here?
So
here we go.
Oh, we've got a comment there, but it's actually on the YouTube video.
Rob did a CBT on a Sissy Piaggio 50cc twist and go. Then a week later, and I think we should. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Then a week later, bought a 125 with gears. Taught himself, probably a bad idea, but at least I could take my time learning the gears without worrying about anything else. Learning from scratch with gears may be too much in one go. Absolutely, having been there for me, having never ridden anything with gears or driven anything with gears, it took me more than 1 day to do it.
Yeah. So there you go, and there's a good example, and that was Rob R28. Thank you, buddy, for that comment. That's really useful. So straight from a 50cc twist and go.
Yeah.
And then I could teach himself how to use the gears. That's crazy.
It's probably not the best idea.
No. And you taught yourself the gears. I suppose that was an interesting time then. Did you not have anyone to help you teach you and on the gears and stuff? So talk about in at the deep end.
Yeah.
Could have probably had one of those YouTube videos of a bike fail. Oh, we've got a panel member join us. It's only Dave. All right, Dave?
Hi, just got online and I just noticed you're on. I went, oh, it's Sunday.
It is indeed.
So it is, and thank you, Jim, for testing the Q&A is working. Much
Thanks,
appreciated.
Jim.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, that's great. We've got a panel member and we've got a test and a good comment as well from Rob. So that was a good one, actually.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Good call to check the email.
It was a good call, Mrs. B, like a boss. Yeah, indeed. Right.
Right, so the rest...
Did you want to put anything to Dave now?
Yes, I do, because the rest of this, after... I've got one little section in section 6 to do, and then it's on to reviewing all the main points that need discussing. So all the stuff that Andy and I have just been waffling on about for the last half an hour is covered as part of that. So basically I'm going to be firing questions at you a lot.
Yeah. Pity I missed the first half an hour, isn't it?
There's no right or wrong answers. Okay, so there is no appeals process set out in the regulations. Training bodies or instructors who disagree with a decision to withdraw their certificates or approval to conduct training courses can currently ask for the decision to be reviewed. The reviewing officer is independent of the decision-making process, and in the past, the chief driving examiner has undertaken the role. Do you think the existing arrangements provide confidence that the decision-making process is fair, consistent, and transparent? Or do you think a statutory appeals process to an independent body, for instance, the first-tier tribunal, should be introduced into the regulations? So when a riding school loses their certification, there's no appeals process. All they can ask for is for the decision to be reviewed. Is that acceptable?
See, you'd think that there would be an official process, appeals process, like anything else. So I think it should be slightly more organised, and there should be a proper appeal process, because that way everything would be recorded and written down and so on and so forth.
What about to an independent body? Because putting my Suffolk Candy head on, it does smack of jobs for the boys and creating more jobs for buddies to become the independent tribunal panel. Yeah,
I don't think it needs to be independent.
Well, it does need to be independent.
Independent of the people that took away their...
Yeah.
I do believe that every decision should be able to be debated and thought about by other people. Because it's quite easy for a group of people that might have something against somebody to all put in complaints and get somebody shut down, and they've got no right of reply. That doesn't sound right to me. Yeah, everybody should have the right to be able to face their accusers, basically, and say, I don't think this is right, or why am I being knocked off the register, or whatever. Of course, you got the other end that says the reason why you're being struck off, for want of a better word, is because you're not doing a very good job anyway. So there's two debates, but I still think there should be a right to appeal.
Yeah, absolutely. And a proper formal process.
Yeah.
We've got a question coming from Biker Tench on the Q&A saying, why is it £600 to do all the tests? I'm 47, been driving 30 years and have to do 3 tests to get a big bike. Well, technically it's not 600 quid, is it? Because you've got to do your CBT, so that's however much that costs, around the £100 mark. It's probably edging nearer to 150 now. But then your theory test's about 50, and your mod 1 and mod 2 together are £104.
Right, but he might well be thinking or relating to a direct access.
But if you're looking at doing your DAS with a riding school, then the extra money comes from their costs. So the cost of your instructor, the cost of the bike, the insurance, the equipment if you're borrowing that. They pre-book all the tests. So when you look at what their overheads are and break that down to the 600, as well as the test fees and everything else, it's not that bad, in my opinion.
Mm.
How does it compare to a car?
I think in terms of the costs of the actual tests, I don't think it's that different.
Because it's been years since I've passed my bike and car test.
I
mean,
costs.
Passed my bike test when I was 20 and a car test when I was 21. I'm now 47.
Theory test is £25, so I was way out on that, and that's for both car and bike. And your practical test in a car is £75, and your practical test on a motorbike, because it's two-part, the two parts together come to 104.
That's a bit biased, then, isn't it?
Mm. But then there's other tests as well that you can do. So yeah, it's a little bit more expensive on a bike.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I take it you don't have to do a theory test if you've got a car license, though, do you?
What do you mean?
Well, if you want to go and ride a motorbike and you've been driving for 10, 20 years.
What, you mean like me?
Oh, do you still have to do a theory test still?
You do. Yep.
Even though you've obviously passed it because you've got a car license?
Not necessarily. I've done a theory test.
Probably not.
It was only introduced in the 90s.
So I might have just missed that
Just
one. Then.
bit,
I just missed that.
A bit like me as well. I think I was the year afterwards, before.
Right.
So yeah, you still have to do your theory test.
Right.
And to be fair, I quite enjoyed doing mine. It was a good refresher.
Yeah, and I certainly never did that has a perception thing.
That forms part of your theory test. That's included in the fee.
I've never had to do that either. Well, not apart from the one we messed about with.
Yeah. Right. So there we go. So the questions now. This is the main summary of the proposal of changes. What do you think about the proposal to align compulsory basic training with the national standard for driver and rider training frameworks?
So make it in line with what car drivers have to do?
Basically, yeah.
I think that would make sense.
What about you, Dave? Good idea?
I think it would make sense. I just wish they would make car drivers more aware of bikes in their test. But I know this isn't about it's about us. So yeah, it's a good idea, I think.
I've said before, I really think that everyone, in order to get a car license, should have to do their CBT on a bike.
I've said for years everybody should be made to ride a bike for 2 years before they do a car test, but that's not going to happen, is it? They do in Taiwan. They have to do it in Taiwan.
Really?
Yeah, everybody has to ride a moped first or a motorcycle for 2 years before they can do their car test. And you'll notice that bikes have priority over cars at every junction, at every set of lights. All bikes can go straight up to the front and wait there without any problems. And because every single person in a car has done a bike test, they don't have any quibbles about it because they've done it themselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's fair enough. That does explain why when you see a lot of those YouTube videos, you see all the scooters at the front of the traffic. Just hordes of them everywhere.
Yeah, but I think everyone to get a car license should have to do CBT.
Yeah, if they were physically
so
able.
At least they get that awareness.
Yeah.
How should the training materials be developed to reflect these national standards?
Well, I guess the best way would be to have them as an electronic type of material so they can be kept up to date all the time rather than, leaflets, pamphlets, and whatever it is else that they want to produce that wastes thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of money. It should be an electronic thing, maybe an app. Maybe an app.
Well, you've got all these bike institutes, people. There's some of them that do real some good stuff for us, like making sure we don't have to have airbags on bikes and rubbish like that. It'd be a good idea if they constantly had advice from people that are that ride bikes all the time, and their input all the time. Rather, I mean, it's unique. I think this is that they're doing now, asking bike riders how to make how to make it better. I've never heard of that before, whether it's bikes or cars. So
this consultation references previous consultations that they've done, so I think they are out there. They've just been less publicised, and I think that's one of the wonderful things about the internet is that, and social media, is that we can talk about it and share it with our biker friends, whereas before only people who went and looked for it would know about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So these training materials, who should they be developed by? Should it be the training industry, the DVSA, or another body? This was something we talked about in the first week, was about should we allow manufacturers or manufacturers' spokespeople to input into the training materials that are made available to new riders?
I believe anybody who can profit from it should not be allowed to take part in it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, all that on like rider gear and stuff like that. Keep any manufacturers well away.
Yeah, there was something that we picked up on a few last year or the year before, which basically said that who would bring the standard out if somebody said you have to wear clothing, as in biker gear, then there has to be a minimum standard. Who would pick that? And then you go down the lines of so and so, Mr. Smith's motorcycle clothing has got the standard, and anybody that doesn't come up to that doesn't get through, you know, and this, that, and the other. And then it starts becoming, we all buy Mr. Smith stuff because he's got the standard, which is why I don't think anybody who can profit from something should be allowed to do it. It should be independent or the trainers.
Interestingly, little side note to this, there's a video knocking about where someone did some testing on some supermarket Kevlar jeans and some branded Kevlar jeans, and they looked at the difference after they'd been dragged down the road, basically behind a bike at 30 odd miles an hour. And they did that a few times, and they looked at where the damage and the impact points were and stuff. It was quite interesting. I'll find the link for it and share it. There you go.
So was there any difference?
Yes, there was.
Right.
There was a difference.
9 times out of 10, if something is cheaper, it's cheaper for a reason, and it's usually because they have either cut corners or using lesser quality items. That doesn't mean to say it doesn't meet the standards, it just means it barely meets the standards compared to overwhelmingly meets the standards.
Yeah, what I was hoping that you wasn't going to say was that the cheaper brand came out on top, because that my faith is restored.
Yeah, you still get what you pay for in a lot of cases. 08 Rides popped in and said it cost him about £600 for lessons and tests 2 years ago, at £35 plus VAT for an hour of lessons. Considering most of the fatalities are us older than 45 plus riders, because we jump on a big bike because we can afford it, the lessons are needed plus post-test training, which is something that's covered in these summary questions. So we'll come to that shortly. And if you've got any thoughts on what post-test training should consist of and how that should be quality assured, and what standards, if any, that should be working to, because I know there's a couple, aren't there, of post-test training.
Yeah, the IAMs and the rosters.
Yeah, the ones that the police run and all that.
So have you got any thoughts on those?
But they're not mandatory, are they?
No, they're not
No.
mandatory.
No.
But
I mean, they are a good idea. I mean, when Khan Biker did his IAM, I've learned some stuff from him, and I've been riding since, like I said, I started riding bikes at 18, passed my test, both tests at 20, and I'm now 47. And even I've learned stuff from him when he went through it last year.
Yeah.
But is the IAM better than the ROSPA one, or better than any of the others? And what does one cover? Do they contradict each other? You know, there could be quite contradictory advice being given. I don't know.
Well,
They might say the same thing. They might all work to the same guidelines. I don't know.
from what I've heard, I haven't heard any contradict any. I've heard some specify in one area and some specify in another area, and there are overlaps which are roughly the same. But I haven't heard one say you have to do this and the other one says no, it has to be this way.
Okay, oh, that's good to know.
But I'm stand to be corrected.
Yeah, I remember there was a chat about what foot you put down when you come to lights. I don't know if all of the advanced riding schools all do the same thing with the left foot down. I don't know.
Yeah, there's something about covering the brakes. I never have done. Like I said, I passed my test years ago. I'm usually holding it on the front brake.
Yeah.
Sometimes I put the right foot down. Sometimes I put the left foot down. It depends which way I'm falling off it, really.
Well, I think the other thing as well is whether or not you put it in neutral. I know some people say, "Oh, I was taught to put the bike in neutral at traffic lights and stuff," whereas me, I would say, "No, that's silly. Leave it in first gear." But
Well, every lesson that I've had recently has always said, put it in first. Make sure you're in first gear so that you're in the right gear to pull away from.
Yeah, good.
Mm-hmm.
In which case it would make sense to put your left foot down and cover the brake.
Yeah, put your foot on the back brake. Yeah.
Anyway. Next question then.
Okay.
Do you agree, or this is a stupid question? Well, I think it is. Do you agree or disagree that training should be tailored to suit the needs of the individual trainee? And do you think this is a good thing?
As opposed to ignoring what the person needs and just do something else.
Well, I will play devil's advocate on this, even though I think it's a stupid question. If someone doesn't get it from the way they're taught, does that mean that they shouldn't get their certificate? You know, if you teach everyone how to do something one way and you teach 100 people and 95 of them get it and 5 of them don't, should you be slowing down the other 95 just so these 5 can get the attention they need? Or should those 5 be dealt with on a repeat session?
That would mean that they'd have to create another separate...
Well, they'd just have to do it again and do the same thing again
CBT
and try and
for dummies.
understand it again.
So that means they're going to special ed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Rider's
just,
Ed.
obviously, in my opinion, tailoring training to meet the needs of the learner is the right way to do it. But
Of course it is.
the best devil's advocate I can come up with is if someone doesn't get it from the way they've been taught by an experienced trainer, then maybe they're not safe to have the CBT.
There has to be a point where the trainer says, "Look, I've tried to tell you, you're not taking it in.
Yeah.
You either come back when you are ready to take it in." I mean, it depends on the student. They might be just playing around so much that they don't care and they think they know it all, and the other ones that really genuinely just can't take it in because they might be a little bit slower than the rest. For the first ones, I'd say come back when you are ready to learn. And the second ones, you would take as long as you could, which would be financially viable, because you don't want to be training. I mean, how many times have you heard, "Oh, I've taken my test for the 100th time and I still haven't passed"? You know, I mean, there is a point where you can't do it.
Yeah.
So tailoring is a good idea up to a point.
Yeah. And it's that common sense again, isn't it? We're assuming that there will be common sense applied to these new regulations, but as we all know from the way the law's quite often applied, common sense isn't used.
No.
So I think it's important that we do go to this degree of detail. Okay, next one. How can trainers ensure trainees have the right level of theoretical knowledge and understanding before starting the practical part of the CBT course? Should there be a shortened theory test as part of the CBT or before the course starts? Or should trainees pass a full theory test before undertaking a CBT?
Second one. I reckon they should pass a test before undergoing a CBT.
Yeah, I agree as well. I think
it's pointless taking a shortened one, because if you're going to take a shortened one, well, why don't you spend that extra 20 minutes to take the longer one?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's absolutely a must-have, is to be able to know what the road signs and everything else, and who's got the right of way. Not that that matters anymore this day and age, but you know, all that good stuff before you go out on the road. And
there's so much that people forget nowadays. When we were starting to ride and drive, one of the first things we did was went down to the local post office and got the free highway code book.
Yeah.
I mean, those are not even free anymore. I mean, I know you can get them online and whatever, but the very first thing you should do is prepare.
Yeah.
You want to learn to ride. The first thing you got to do is know the conditions of the road, know what the road markings mean, because otherwise you're just going to end up crashing or dying or causing problems for others.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, theory test mandatory before CBT.
Okay. How can trainers ensure trainees have demonstrated their competence to ride independently during the road element of the CBT course?
By making sure they follow the syllabus, I guess. And that syllabus would cover all manoeuvres that you would need to do on a road.
But you can't plan for certain things to happen. And what you would like to see might not necessarily happen. So you might want to see how the rider copes with someone pulling out on them. And just for once, during a 2-hour minimum ride out, no one pulls out on them. So you don't get to see that. No. You can't set it up.
No, that would be really wrong.
Well, you could theoretically set it up, but it wouldn't be a car. You would, for argument's sake, hypothetical situation here, you would have somebody at the bottom of the road waiting to cross, and then they know how far out into the road they're gonna go before they turn back, and then, or you don't tell the pupils this, you just let them ride up to the bottom of the road, and then this person starts to cross. And you just see how they react in a safe environment. It's similar to the emergency stop you have on a car, where he says, "I'm going to stop the dash," or "I'm going to say stop," or whatever it is they do now.
It's say stop.
Again, if they've got intercoms, they wouldn't even need to do that. All it does is at some point you say, "Stop now."
Yeah. Yeah.
What sort of things would you expect to be covered then? What sort of things would you expect as a minimum when someone gets CBT? You would expect them to demonstrate on a road ride.
Lane positioning, distance from vehicles in front of you, awareness, look at the head to see if they're looking left and right up junctions and things like that. Yeah. And yeah, those would be the main points, I think.
Steadiness on the bike, you know, confidence, control, all that sort of usual stuff that you'd expect, really.
So what about types of roads?
Well, there's a limit, isn't there, of what roads you can go on.
But most areas you should be able to get onto a dual carriageway and show joining a dual carriageway, moving with the traffic, overtaking where appropriate.
The hardest ones would be country roads, because not everywhere's got a road without markings down it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I don't remember being taught is what to do in those situations. You know, when they've got no markings, who has right of way and this and the other. I mean, now I know, but at the time I didn't.
Yeah.
That was a question on my driving theory test many years ago.
What was the question?
Who has right of way when there's no road markings?
Who has right of way? You just use common sense.
Exactly, no one has right of way.
Yeah. It depends on the scenario. Yeah. Sorry, I just thought.
I would say the one nearest the passing point is the one who's got to back up.
Again, common sense applies.
Yeah.
Or if you're on a twist and go scooter versus an articulated lorry, I'd say the articulated lorry has right of way.
Yep.
Because you've got to assume that he's not seeing you.
Yeah.
Because you're this big. Okay, next one then. Again, daft question. Do you agree raising public knowledge about CBT is a good idea? And how do you think public knowledge could be improved? Good idea.
Yes, I do agree that it's raising public knowledge is a good idea. And B, put it in the car test that bikes have the right to do this, that, and the other, and that they should give way on certain circumstances. Because they're less likely to get frustrated with bikes getting in front of them, because 9 times out of 10 they believe they're doing something wrong, and why should they get in front of me? Whereas if they know they can, it diffuses the situation a bit.
Yeah, and so many times I see on Facebook my non-biker friends saying, "Oh my God, bloody biker came bombing past me, dead loud, revved their engine as they were coming past because I wouldn't move out the way. Why should they jump to the front of the queue?" So keyboard warrior, well, be cars.
Yep, that's right.
Because they can, and it's allowed.
And actually, it's legal, and you should let them through, because otherwise you're just causing problems.
And it's safe for the rider.
And not only that, it's easing congestion by virtue of the fact that they are actually, if there's 10 bikes in front of them, that's 10 car lengths closer to the lights that they are.
Yeah.
And how can public knowledge be improved? Well, make everyone do the CBT before they can have a car license.
Yeah.
That'd be a quick way to do it.
Yep.
One of those public information videos. Oh, you know.
People don't always watch them.
No, I know, but it's like the ones I see, they leave it down to the driver of a car to look out for a motorbike, but they also need to understand that as part of that, you know, motorbikes will come up behind you on the motorway and filter down through and all that sort of stuff. I know it's not CBT related because we're talking about a motorway, but still.
It can happen on a dual carriageway.
Yeah, look out for motorbikes filtering, because it's their right to do so and it's safer for them, so make sure you give them room. I've never seen anything on telly that says that before.
And the key thing I would say is probably not to bother with TV adverts, because who actually watches TV live and sits through all the adverts?
Yeah, 9 times out of 10 you whiz through them like I do. I know if I put mine at times 32, it takes 10 seconds to get through the commercials.
So putting them as sponsored adverts on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, before bike tagged videos.
Yeah.
You know, using social media in the way that it can be used effectively to spread positive messages.
Yeah.
Rather than relying on the old-fashioned putting an advert on the radio, putting an advert on the TV. No one watches, no one listens to that stuff anymore.
No.
That's right.
My 2 cents. How can we help improve their knowledge about CBT, what to expect from their trainer, and what they need to know about the highway code and suitable protective clothing? This is for new riders. So in theory, 17-year-old who just wants a twist and go to get back into from the weekend job.
I think a good idea would be that anybody who wants to do a CBT must first contact a training instructor and have half an hour chat with them, where they are given a free highway code and spoken about what they've got to do. Maybe it's subsidized by the government, maybe it's just you have to pay £5, £10, £20, whatever it is, for this half hour chat. but it'd be a good way of making them aware of what they need, what they're going to do, and also giving them a highway code will give them the very first thing they need to understand the road.
That's a really good idea. And following on from that, maybe going into colleges, sixth form colleges, universities, doing the courses and teaming up with driving schools, and for part of their, what's the term again? Part of their
Curriculum?
No, it's the, not accreditation, it's the earned recognition. Part of their earned recognition, they could give away a voucher to get money off their CBT, which would then be subsidised by the government. Because rather than spending all that money on TV advertising, because we all know how expensive that is, using social media, sponsoring something like this would probably be cheaper, even with the subsidised CBTs.
Yeah.
So what about protective clothing and things? Do you think there should be a pack? Do you think it should be, you know, should it be covered in the highway code more to a greater extent than it already is?
I think they should. I mean, obviously, most bikers that I know always say all the gear all the time. So in the pack, it should show you what all the gear is that will keep you most protected. But as we know, there is only one requirement when it comes to riding a motorbike by law, and that's wear a crash helmet.
I think technically you need to wear underwear as well.
Yeah, that would come under being glued, wouldn't it? Or
yeah, riding naked, I wouldn't advise that.
But your bare minimum is undercrackers and the lid.
Yeah, but
and a bra if you're a woman.
There's certain places you definitely don't want gravel rash or road rash.
Definitely.
Ouch.
I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. If you say you must wear this as a minimum, then somebody's going to come along with the minimum and say, right, this is what you've got to have. The one good thing about the highway code is it's not law, it is a list of common sense things that you should be doing. So in that, yes, you could say, ideally, in an ideal situation, you want to be wearing a minimum of, say, Kevlar jeans, leather or textile jacket, and decent gloves and helmet and whatever. And you can go up from that.
The highway code already says that. It says about wearing boots with ankle protection and wearing trousers, textile or leather, likewise with a jacket and gloves. It already says that. So is that enough?
Well, it's a start.
Yeah, didn't they mention something about getting a manufacturer involved, which is where it was like the big no-no?
Yeah.
So that is the only thing I would be reluctant to say, yes, go ahead and do it, purely because manufacturers will then profit from it because of the somebody has got to say what the minimum standard is and they will profit from it. The highway code is very good because they will give you minimum standards. The law says you've got to wear a helmet. I prefer, I mean, that has its minimum standards as well, even though some helmets are better than others. So in general, it's a good idea, but not to make it law that you've got to wear it.
Yeah.
Well, even saying that, it's difficult because there's so many idiots go out in a t-shirt and jeans on a moped. You look at them and you think you're only ever going to come off once, you know, because after that you're either never going to get on a bike again or you won't be able to.
Yeah.
Or they're just scarred for life.
Yeah.
But yeah. I just want to quickly say for Von Swartz-Nata.
Yeah.
If you want a link on Skype, just ping me a message on Skype.
I thought I'd sent one.
Mrs. B thinks she sent you one, so just ping me again anyway, and see if you've not been sent a link. Okay, buddy? And we'll sort that out for you. No problem.
Oh, wait, right, says, He doesn't watch adverts on social media either.
Well, we all try to avoid them, don't we? Let's face it. Why would you want to watch an advert?
But how many times have you seen a link to like a public advert or a government-sponsored advert from Australia on bike safety? You know, the one about how it slows down and the car hasn't seen the bike and they stop and have a conversation before the impact.
Yeah.
You know, these things do get shared if it's good enough.
Yeah.
So there's an argument.
But I have seen one where it comes from two different directions. The one shows you this car pulling out, and the voiceover almost blames it on the bike by the way he's talking. The bike was going too fast. If he'd stopped here, he would have been able to do this, that, and the other. Whereas the other one said in real life, the car driver pulled out at this point, which was then too late for the bike driver to be able to stop in the distance that he had left. You know, this and the other. So it depends on how it's worded. And we all know the British government and things like that don't seem to want to have bikers on roads for some reason. They don't allow us commercials. I've never seen a bike commercial.
No, I've not.
The only thing they do, which is close to being for us, is think once, think twice, think bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I agree. There's not much support government-wise for bikers, is there? Let's face it. But I think there should be awareness videos for bikers in terms of, rather than leave the onus up to the car driver to look. Ride invisible. Do something like that.
Yeah, it definitely is a two-way thing. None of us three here and anybody else who's appeared on the panel over these videos would ever say that it's always the car's fault. Because if you don't put yourself in that position in the first place, then you're not going to have the accident. I mean, the argument is you're coming up to a junction, you can see the junction, you should expect something coming out of there. So you should already be manoeuvring to a point where you can either see or slow down in time.
Yeah.
And your safety is your responsibility. You shouldn't be trusting other road users with your safety. You should be doing everything in your power to protect yourself.
Yeah.
That's right.
Anyway, we've gone slightly off topic, sorry. Okay, next question. How could public awareness be raised to help people understand that 2 hours on-road riding is only meeting the minimum requirement, and that many riders will find that they need many more on-road experience hours before they can meet the minimum standards of competence? I think that comes down to making it very clear what the minimum standards of competence are and spelling it out really, really clearly as to what you should be able to do. And you will know yourself within 2 hours whether you've achieved that or not, or whether you're going to need longer.
Yeah.
And this could be said in your first half-hour consultation where you get your free highway code.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the minimum you're going to be on the road for is 2 hours. You might have to come back 5 or 6 times, but...
I wouldn't say you might have to. I'd say you'd probably come back more. And that way they are more inclined to saying, instead of saying, oh, well, I've had my 2 hours, I should be good enough, they should be saying, am I good enough? I've had 3 hours or 4 hours, you know.
Yeah. Well, it was always a thing when I was learning to drive that you could pass your test in 10 lessons. If you could do it after 10 lessons, which was a minimum of 10 hours on the road, you were doing really well. Most people were sort of 15 to 20 hours.
Yeah, this is really nasty for me because after 4 lessons, my driving instructor says put in for your test, and after 6 lessons, I passed my test.
And there's always going to be exceptions to the rule.
Yeah, of course there is, but I'd been riding my bike for 2 years by then.
So you didn't have to learn a lot of the road sense.
That's right.
Any more thoughts on that about how public awareness can be raised about the 2 hours being a minimum?
I think it just should be part of your application at the point where you apply to do your CBT training. There should be a mandatory tick off checkbox to say that you understand what the requirements are. And they should be informing you anyway of what you to expect on your CBT.
Yeah, I agree.
I think maybe there should be some scope for riding schools to increase the cost of a CBT to cover that. Because I know, was it Learn to Ride videos? The first time we did this session, he talked about how he does a one price for his CBT. And if someone needs to come back and do another 6 hours, that's still included in the price. Whereas when I did mine, I had to go back for a second day. I paid again for another full day.
Is that the one that they didn't tell you how to use the clutch?
Yes.
Which is ridiculous, but that's by the by.
Yeah, it is.
Or the rear brake.
My word, I use my rear brake more than anything else.
Yeah.
So
well, now I know about it and how useful it is.
Which you should learn in the CBT.
Anyway, so that brings us on nicely to the next question. Do you think plans to revise the standards check so it supports a risk-based approach to quality assurance and earned recognition status for good trainers is a good idea?
You'll have to read that one to me again because I was slightly distracted.
Well, what do they use now?
Well, exactly.
I mean, it would help if we knew what they use now compared to the language they're using there, because I have no idea what that means, what they're talking about.
So the earned recognition status thing is anyone who is a CBT instructor school, any school that gives CBT training, they have to undertake mandatory checks so that they can be assessed that they're training to a certain standard.
Yeah, which is fair enough.
Now, the proposal is to bring that in for DAS trainers, and it would be a voluntary scheme, but if you had the checks done on your trainers, you would get earned recognition status and be listed on the gov.uk website as an earned recognition riding school. So although it's voluntary, you pretty much have to do it.
Yeah.
So the question is, do you think plans to revise the standards check so it supports a risk-based approach to quality assurance and earned recognition status for good trainers is a good idea? So is this making the voluntary, let's be honest, it's not going to be a voluntary check.
It'll have to be mandatory, won't it?
Is it a good idea?
If you want to continue going as a trainer, it'd be mandatory. Because people are going to go to two firms and they're going to go, well, you are on the website and you're not, so I'm going to go with you. So, is it elitism? Is it a good thing? Will it be jobs for the boys?
But that's a case of how long is it valid for?
Yeah.
You know, it could be a way of. I mean, sometimes. I mean, that's two evils. I mean, if they had to keep retaking this or undergo this examination to make sure they were still following the right standards, I don't see that as a bad thing. But I'm guessing they might want to apply a charge to it. But then if it's a business, it might be in your interest to attract custom by saying, you know, we're accredited or whatever the terminology is. We have a recognition
status.
Yeah. And we have, you know, every year since year dot. So therefore that makes us a good driving or riding school come to us. So it makes sense as opposed to the backstreet cowboys that can't be bothered.
So that leads us on to the next question. And 08 Ride, I am going to come to your questions and comments shortly. So the next one is, what evidence does the DVSA need from trainers to show that they meet the standard for earned recognition status? For example, internal processes, additional qualifications, continued professional development, etc. So what would you expect them to be doing to get recognition status?
I would expect them to be assessed whilst training somebody.
Yeah.
So every now and then somebody would come down from the assessor's office and ride with them when they're out with a bunch of students. And I'd prefer it if it would be on a arranged visit. You know, and I know places have gone. Oh, we're coming we're coming tomorrow, so expect us or whatever. No, I think they should turn up on the day and say, right, we're coming out with your next set of riders, so they have no time to prepare.
Yeah. I think that's the only way you get a true picture of the standard of the training.
Mm-hmm.
Or possibly mystery shopper even.
Yes, there is that as well. You could always have somebody who's been riding for a while, and all you do is just say to them, I'm about to do my third CBT or whatever it is, because there's no way you can fake the first times you've ever been riding. Everybody falls into habits and lane position and stuff like that. So somebody who's done this stuff a few times is less likely to draw attention than somebody who hasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'd find it hard not to be looking all over the place, even if I was acting to try and not know how to ride. I'd still be, if I was on the road, I'd still be looking everywhere like I do now, you know, just so that I stay alive.
Yeah.
It'd be hard not to be able to do that.
So 08 Ride, to assess the sort of standard of people before they do the CBT, he says to get your provisional license you have to apply through gov.uk. To apply, you could force people to agree that they've read certain single statements and paragraphs before they get through to applying. Cover CBT, biker knowledge, all the gear all the time, etc. But that goes back to the old, yes, I have read the terms and conditions and I haven't even clicked on the link. So
yeah.
Yes, I was just about to say, how many of us when installing data go, yes, I agree, yes, install.
Yeah. Well, certainly the ones where you just get the option, do you want to install this software and agree to our terms or not? If you want the software, you're going to have to agree, aren't you?
Yeah.
So maybe but then we go back to doing a test again, don't we? If you want to do that, so you might as well just do the theory.
I think the only way around it is to do the theory test before.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think the theory test should cover, which it doesn't currently, should cover about your gear, about what's the minimum, what's the recommended. So a couple of questions I think they should add in.
Yes.
And for post-test, 08 Ride says, I don't want a certificate or test, e.g. IAM or ROSPA, or have to follow some new rules to pass some test, nor learn how to take a corner at some ridiculous speed or angle in the rain. I want specific improvements for me, not their kudos.
Good point.
I think that's a really good point too.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that through Kev's website and forum, the motorbikecommunity.com, you know, if you're a new rider and you want to go out with someone experienced who will help you work on certain things, that's a great place to get in touch with people. And it's a great place to meet up with other bikers. So maybe a slightly more formalised network.
Yeah, oh my God, I've got flashbacks of
BHB, yes, I know, I had the same thing.
But I think, I mean, you could have, I mean, maybe we should think about with the motorbikecommunity.com is organise a ride out whereby it's not just about going for a ride out, but
maybe buddying up an experienced rider with a new rider.
Particularly inclusive for new riders to come along and maybe partner up in the ride out, and they can follow, you know, an experienced rider, and maybe even get the Bluetooth going on as well, just so they can not only have fun doing the ride out, but they can also chat about riding positioning and everything else and things to look out for as you do the ride out as well. I think that would be pretty damn good.
Yeah, do a bit. You follow me for a bit and watch my position,
Yeah.
and then I'll follow you and give you some pointers.
Yeah.
We've had several ride-outs, including you two as well, where we've had L-plate riders with us, and at the start of the ride they are a little bit all over the place, but by the end of the ride they are very, very well placed and positioned. I mean, the one I remember was the Lincoln ride, where the two L-plate riders that were just in front of me were very close to each other and almost crashing into each other. But by the end of the ride, the positioning was right, the amount of space they were leaving was right. Everything was very, very good about them because they learned from the others as they went along.
Yeah.
It does. You just where it rubs off on you. It's like the stagger position and the distance. You know, you see learner riders going out on a ride out for the first time or not used to them, and they're like sit behind each other and they're all being each other's way, and it's a bit of a mess. But if you go on a ride out enough, some of the organised ones where we get into the staggered line up and everything else, they say, well, hang on a minute. Oh, I see what they're doing. One's riding that side, one's riding that side, and they're that far apart. I'll just get in here, and then they feel part of the ride out as well then, because they're in formation, and you just naturally learn that stuff. So I think that would be a good idea to add that facility to the ride outs that get organised through motorcyclecommute.com. And yeah, that'd be useful. We'll get some headsets.
Other forums and websites are available, but motorbikecommunity.com is the best.
And we can.
Okay, a couple more questions then. Do you think the qualification process for motorcycle trainers needs to change? I don't know enough about it to comment on that.
I can't comment because I haven't gone through the training process since I was 18, 19.
And do you think that there should be a time limit to the down-trained instructor certificate before they go on to become fully qualified? So a bit like making someone who's done the CBT 20 times, forcing them to do a big bike test. Do you think that you should do the same for a CBT instructor?
Yes, I do. I think if you want to train somebody, then you should have in your head at least want to get to a level where you are qualified to train. It's not something, oh, I'll do it for a couple of years, you know, it's something to do, because that's the wrong attitude. If you want to train somebody, then there's a reason why you want to train somebody, and I think making them go for a test after 5 years, 2 years, 6 months, 1 hour, whatever it is a good idea.
Yeah.
I just think that if someone's going to be teaching people how to ride motorbikes, no matter what level, they should have all of the riding tests
qualifications
from CBT right up to advanced or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So that means that they can cater for anybody that comes on for a CBT and answer any questions and pass on that experience.
And maybe as well put on a minimum amount of time that you've been riding as well, because how many of us would, for argument's sake, want to take lessons from Calm, who's been riding for a year, compared to Andy, who's been riding for so many years?
Yeah, I'd say the thing is though, and I've not been riding that many years, have I?
30.
But
I'm in general, it's whoever does the testing would have had to have gone through present day testing. But having said that, there's a lot of stuff that you learn on the road that's not covered. Yeah. And Calm himself has said when he passed his test, he's learned a hell of a lot more since he passed his test than what he did where he is now.
Yeah, but I think the thing to say about time is I think it should be more like, for example, pilots. If you've been a pilot for a year and flown 2 hours, then I probably wouldn't want to get any training from that person. However, if that pilot had their license for a year and they've flown 2,000 hours, that'd be different. And I think
that's where it comes to the time that you've been riding rather than the years that you've been riding.
Yeah.
Yeah, the number of miles, but I think for rider, I suppose it'd be the number of miles in most cases, but actually physically on the road. And I know Calm Biker puts in thousands and thousands
Oh,
of
yes.
a year.
Far more than you do.
He puts more in than I do, you know, because I've got alternative transport, and you know, if I'm going anywhere with the family, we can't go on the bike; we have to go in the car to the kids. So, yeah, Calm's got a lot more experience in terms of the average rider, I would say, that would only get their bike out in the summer. In terms of that.
True. Do you think the DVSA should recognise qualifications from other organisations? Well, I don't know what qualifications they recognise, so I don't know.
Or what organisations?
Well, if the other organisations have a standard which is acceptable between each other, then I don't see why they shouldn't accept them.
Yeah.
It all depends on the level of skill that they're looking for, I suppose. And then again, there would have to be some sort of legislation or literature that says this is the minimum that you can pass to. Anything above it, we'll accept.
Mm.
Yeah. I think it does depend on. I mean, that's kind of a weird question, really, because it could be anybody. Couldn't it? I could set up an organisation tomorrow and say, "Oh, by the way, I think blah blah blah," and it's an unknown organisation with any real clout.
Yeah.
Similar line. Do you think there should be one assessment for trainers and an additional assessment for those who want to down train other instructors?
Down training.
I think they're not getting rid of down training, so yes, I think they should have to do an additional course.
Yes.
Yep. I think that's unanimous.
Yeah. Should there be any changes to the down-trained instructor process, and if so, what should those changes be? I think the first one is to reduce the amount of time that they're allowed to go between retraining.
Yeah, I think it should be once a year.
Well, I mean, teachers go on training days quite often, don't they?
Yeah. Well, anyone who holds a professional qualification has to show continued professional development, which means they have to do continued training.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that motorcycle instructors should be any different.
No,
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, this is easy.
Yep.
Should the down-trained instructor certificate be limited to a certain period before they become fully qualified? If so, how long should that be? 2 years, 5 years, or another period? So I think we kind of covered that. We're in agreement of a year.
A year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're also considering some longer-term proposals about motorcycle training and CBT, and welcome any comments, concerns, or questions about the training route to progressive access, regulating all motorcycle training, undertaking CBT on an automatic machine, restricting the rider to only riding automatics, a flexible approach to the theoretical elements of CBT if a candidate can show they have a thorough understanding of driving theory, the validity period for a CBT certificate, and what future development should be interested in seeing for post-test training. So, any of those jump out at you, Dave? Which one do you want to talk about?
The automatic one. I think that if you're learning to ride on a twist and go automatic, then that's all you should be allowed to do. The same as a car, because you have no knowledge of how the clutch works, how changing gear works. You have none of that. So why should you pass a test in a automatic and expect to know how a manual works? I remember many years ago while I was learning, I let my friend have a go on my bike, and he rode it up and down the dual carriageway in first, screaming the head off. I says, "Why didn't you change gear?" He says, "I didn't know how."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's no good. And I think Rob mentioned it earlier in the question on the YouTube video for this, and he said that he'd passed his test on a 50cc twist and go, but had to teach himself how to change gear when he got his 125 geared bike.
I let my friend have a go on my...
Sorry. Most people who do CBTs, this comes from the Hamilton biker, most people who do CBTs are 16 and only have it for a 50cc chav machine until they're 17 and learn to drive a car. Controversial.
Yeah, well, one of my fellow workers, his son, did exactly the same.
Yeah. I think what the thing for me about it all is, though, and I understand the scenario where people they want their own transport, they want to be independent, so they'll get a twist and go chicken chaser for the first year. But I still don't. They're still out on the road. They're still out there, and they could be, you know, potentially causing accidents or be in an accident themselves. So I still think they need that training, no matter what, even if they don't intend to go on to get a big bike anyway.
They have to, but hopefully
they don't have to take a theory test.
No, they have to do their CBT.
Yeah, and I think that there should be that theory test in there and all that. And
yeah, because I think it would put off people who just want to scream around on a 50cc twist and go
so they can get
until they can take their driving test. But also, what I think we should be looking at is encouraging 16-year-olds to love bikes and to get involved in the bike community. And instead of, as we've all done, I'm certainly guilty of it, looking at them going, bloody squid. Because, you know, they've got the trackie on, the trainers, they're on a twist and go, they've got the lid on the t-shirt, and that's it. What we should be doing is trying to make them part of the bike community so that they want to continue with bikes.
Well, I don't think you can force someone, though.
No, you can't force someone, but I think there is an inherent bit of everybody where we're elitist and we see a 16-year-old on a twist and go chav machine and go, don't want to be with them. But I think to make them feel part of the bike community would help them want to do the big bike test.
Yeah, I mean, I always nod at squids or whatever, everything else. I think that they're going to have to be proactive themselves, aren't they, in terms of trying to get in with biking. You know, if anyone's out there right now watching this that's being a bit of a squid at the moment but thinks that they'd like to get to know more about bikes and so on, then get on mobikecommunity.com and join a ride out and see what it's all about.
I saw a lad the other day and he was on a 50cc scooter going up a 30-mile-an-hour road. He was doing 28 miles an hour and a taxi was right up his arse, overtook him, and I could see he was shaking, and I almost followed him to check he was all right. I didn't, because I was going to pick the kids up, but I don't know, I think as a biker I did feel bad for not going and checking he was all right, because I could see he was a bit shaken up by it.
Well, yeah, but in that instance, if you'd avoided partial test, you was on your SV. I mean, me personally, I would have probably, well, I seen the situation brewing, and I would have told the taxi driver to back off and leave him alone.
Yeah, I was a few cars back.
Yeah, but of course on a bike you can nip in there and help on that scenario. And I certainly would. If I saw a biker being harassed because they were, you know, limited by speed or whatever on a 50cc, I'd certainly stick up for them. And, you know, I'd try and make the car driver aware that they're harassing someone that can't literally go any faster. So there we go. My word, has Mr. Von made our hangout?
My goodness, we're going off air in, oh, it's all right, we've got 25 minutes.
There he is.
Oh, hello.
It's Von Schwarznatter.
Yeah, well, took me about an hour to get this bleeding thing working.
Well, you've got it working. Well done.
Well, no, I was just saying, it's gone off now.
We're still here.
We're still here. You're working fine.
I say, it's done completely different in Germany. You do not get on the road until you've passed your written test.
Right, that's how it should.
And for what you got to take along with you is you have to have your eyes tested and a first aid certificate. You take that to the driving school, or else you don't give nowhere near a car or a bike. So the first thing you do is get your eyes tested and a first aid certificate.
Right.
And you take that to driving school, and then you can start your driving lessons. Because there are, I know, CBTs run L plates over here.
Mm.
You have to go through a driving school.
That's interesting. You mentioned about the eyes as well, because when you do a CBT, I mean, I remember when I did my test a long time ago. All I had to do is to read a number plate at a certain distance. I mean, do you have to do that for the CBT?
Yes, I think you do. I think I did.
So that's the limits of our eye test, anyway.
Yeah.
Is read a number
It's
plate.
read that number plate over there.
Yeah. So what I do here is I check if you've got a weakness for red, greens, those kind of colour.
So
Because
green is quite important.
Yes, because I do it for a living as well. You have to have now a higher test, and you have to get your eyes checked out. I've got a slight red, but it's in the limits.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Cause colour blindness,
Mm.
and that won't show up in an L plate. Reading a number plate.
No.
Good point.
Mm.
That's something we should add into our feedback to the. We'll add that into the feedback about the eye test. Yeah, it's good, especially around colour blindness.
And safety gear, you have to wear a kidney belt here.
A kidney belt.
What's that?
Yeah, it's a protection. It goes around your stomach and your back to support your back, and it stops your kidneys getting. If you fall off your bike, it protects your kidneys.
Wow.
It's called a kidney belt, and it stops your kidneys getting too cold. It just firstly braces you up.
Right.
And you won't get on the bike with one of those on.
Wow.
Wow. So what happens to the foreigners that come across on their bikes then? I suppose the law doesn't apply to that, or can't apply to that.
Sorry, you should jump there.
If I was to ride into, is it?
No, that's not a problem. It's just the people here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I mean, I bought myself a complete back protection anyway, so because I won't ride a bike without one.
Right. Yeah.
You can pick them up. You can pick them up on eBay for what 20 euros. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But in France, their laws apply to everyone, whether they're foreign or French. Don't they?
So they say.
Yeah, but you have to carry a first aid kit here and a yellow vest.
Yeah.
Even on the bike.
Wear the yellow vest, do you?
No.
Oh, yeah, that would be. I'd move.
No.
If that was the case.
No, you have to just twiddle it up and stick it in your bag or something. But you have to have it there in case of accidents or.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
You could easily go it under your seat.
Oh yeah, under the humble seat or whatever on the back of the bike. Yeah, I've got on a storage for a high-vis jacket. Can't even.
08 Ride says re-automatic CBT, but what is the CBT for? Is it for assessing road knowledge or bike riding? For me, if you're still on L plates, stick on auto, but you can learn the geared bike for your full licence training.
The CBT should be for both road knowledge and bike training.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
I thought that's what the theory was for, road knowledge.
Yeah.
The theory is road knowledge on its own.
Yeah.
But I think the CBT should cover everything. It's compulsory basic training. The basic training should be everything. Otherwise, what's the point in having it?
Yep.
But if you do it on an automatic bike, you should only be allowed to ride automatic bikes.
Yeah.
Not to a 125, age dependent, because obviously if you're 16, you can only ride up to a 50cc.
Yeah.
Well, I've taken a test in both countries. I've done my driving car test in Germany and passed my motorbike test in England.
Right.
So it's done the best of both worlds sort of thing. I used to be a driving instructor in Sevenoaks, would you believe?
Sevenoaks, huh?
Wow.
Yeah. My brother used to live just down the road from Sevenoaks. He's moved to France now, so.
Right.
So, what was your experience of doing your test in the your bike test in the UK?
It took me 3 days.
Right. Was that a direct access?
It's a driving school down in Tunbridge, just because I've been driving for years anyway, in a car. So you had that knowledge anyway.
Test.
That's before CBT. That's a long time ago. I'm getting on there.
So was your test a man with a clipboard?
No, he rode behind us on
Oh,
a
wow.
bike.
Oh, not as far back as me and Andy then.
We never even had
No.
this. We just had a man stood on a piece of grass with a clipboard telling us to ride round in circles.
Yeah. No, it must have been back end of the 80s, being in a night.
I'm sure it must have been later than that. It must have been like the 2000s, surely.
Yeah, no, I'm nearly 53, would you believe? So,
Well,
no, it's right away because I left. Because I don't like bits and bobs here. When was the last time I was in England? 2001.
right.
While back then.
Because born in London.
Never mind. It wasn't your fault.
Never mind. Well, that's why I'm pissed off. Lived down in Eastbourne for a while as well. So that was nice.
Hmm.
And I say, well, at the moment I'm over here. I've been living in Germany for about 30 years now, so backwards and forwards quite a bit. So.
Well, we'll have to catch up on that because I'm intrigued, but I suppose we need to keep it on track for CBT at the moment.
Yeah, sorry,
yeah.
for a comment.
Let's say,
This has come in and said, yeah, you do an eye test for your CBT. I thought you did.
But
I
that's
remember
the
doing
number
that.
plate,
Yeah,
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
not an actual eye test.
Yeah.
We say you have to get a certificate and then take you to driving school.
Right.
And you look, see any little bits and bobs, and all that you can't get in a car or on a bike.
Yeah.
And your first aid test as well.
Yeah.
Right,
Which
so
is not a bad thing, because she's, well,
No,
I'd like to see you do a refreshment cup.
we've covered off the entire document. Yay!
Hey.
It's taken us about 2 months.
Right.
I've got to get the response in by end of next week, I think.
Right. Okay. So do we need to do anything else now apart from put our feedback into it?
No, basically what I'm going to do now is review the videos, write up the feedback, the general consensus, any of the interesting points relating to all the different things we've talked about, and I will then share that privately with people who've been involved in the hangouts and submit it as our feedback.
Yeah.
With the links to the Hangouts, perhaps?
Yeah.
Thanks to the discussions, yeah. Which I think will be awesome.
Yes.
Indeed.
So you now have 15 minutes to talk about what you want. Get cracking on the bikes.
Yay!
Hopefully.
Oh, nice.
Tell them about what we went to see today.
Oh.
Ooh.
Well, no, it's just we went to down to my brother's, and he's got, for want of a better word, kind of like almost a motorbike museum.
Yeah.
But it's all his own stuff. And, he's got a Yamaha HC190, which is it's got the smallest twin that you can get, and it's absolutely mint. So that was pretty cool, along with everything else. So that was good. I could waffle on about all the bikes he's got, but I won't bore everyone with that. But it's great to have a new person on the panel as well, I have to say.
It is, yes.
It took a while because I had to go through Google, because she wouldn't work on Firefox for a while, and it took me a while to get it all sorted out. So.
Yeah, Chrome works the best.
And even that's flaky.
But that can be flaky.
Even that's correct.
Yeah.
I've got it working on Firefox, and that's a bit better now. So.
Yeah, I use Firefox all the while.
Yep. Oh, come here. Someone's turned up. Oh, yeah. Big lump.
Hello.
Yes.
No, look. Ooh, look. Who's that?
Hello.
Don't tell me his name's Smokey.
No. Trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've all got people that's called Trouble. She missed that.
Sorry.
Most of them are useless CBT trainers.
Yeah.
Trouble.
Oh, we've got a question.
Yeah, I was just reading. And under what name will you be using for the feedback? The government will take a group representing a number of riders seriously and may involve you directly in further informal consultation and meetings. Well, that would be the ideal outcome. And with the people who've been involved, and if you want me to get you involved as well, 08 Ride, just let us know.
We've had some good questions.
And some brilliant feedback. And when I go back through the videos, everyone who's been involved in the discussions, either on the panel or in the Q&A,
Yeah.
I can circulate the feedback to you guys, and hopefully they will take us seriously.
Yeah, but it's a good question though. What about what name should we use? I think YouTube vloggers would be a bit rubbish, wouldn't it? I don't know.
Well, we're a group of bikers.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, but what are we going to call ourselves?
We're not
We're just a group of bikers.
We're not a bike club, are we?
We're all a group of bikers that happen to be on Mr. and Mrs. B's brain dump.
Well, what about...
Sorry.
Right there. No, I was going to say, what about... well, maybe Kev would let us use Motorbike Community.
Yeah.
.com.
We can ask them.
I don't know. I mean, that's an idea. I mean, it's a name that everyone can have an input into, I think,
Mm-hmm.
to what we want to represent ourselves as, and then go from there, really. Because obviously they're looking for like IAMs and all that sort of stuff, aren't they? But we'll have to come up with something for ourselves.
But I think a group of non-formal would be quite useful for consultation.
Yeah.
Everyday bikers rather than affiliated with this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sponsored by this, that, and the other.
And I think that we've got a good national representation as well, because we're not just from an area.
No, we've had people from Sussex, we've had people from Yorkshire, Liverpool areas, the Midlands, Germany.
Coventry.
Yep.
But we do get a good representation, and that's why we're not a bike club, because we are all over the place.
We are indeed. Right. Well, we've got 10 minutes left, or we could always just go off air anyway, unless anyone else got any questions that they want to raise regarding CBT.
Have you told them about that Yamaha you saw today?
The Yamaha HC190.
Oh, you've Googled it.
I did have a little Google, yeah. Well, I've never seen one, but there seems to be only prevalent in America.
Yeah, well, he said it came from America.
Yeah. There you go. 90cc twin two-stroke, awesome.
So you told them.
Well.
Yeah. But,
Wow. Be fun to have an autobahn on it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 75.
Yeah,
there were some lovely bikes there. A lot of them are rusty and need a lot of work, but there's potentially some beautiful bikes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We can buy the H2. We can buy the H2 now, just up the road. So I have to sell a kidney for that. I've got to sell a kidney for that one, though. So.
Yeah. Richard's got his eye on that one, hasn't he?
I think the H2R costs about €60,000. So it's but absolutely, do need. That's both kidneys. So.
Yeah. You won't need your kidney belt anymore.
No, we won't need that anymore.
We need Bobby.
Yeah.
Right then, shall we say good evening and go off air?
I think that's probably a good idea. I think we've covered all the bases. Thanks for everyone's input.
Yes, and thank you.
So it's just get this thing going anyway. So.
And thank you to our panel.
Yes. So should we get them both to say goodbye?
Yes.
So everyone, Swartz, would you like to say goodbye to everyone, please, buddy?
Long. Yeah, that was cool. I tipped it once and it came out twice. So. It's supposed to be von Schwarzenegger, not twice. So that was a bit of a muck up. So
That's right. You could end up
Which
with
is
a
black.
one
It's
slot
the translation from black. It's just the translation from Blackadder, really. So.
Right.
Right then. So, would you like to say
Okay.
good night to our viewers on Sportsnatter?
Good night, viewers.
There he is. He's back
Excellent.
again. And
Oh, it's
Dave?
gone.
And
Alright.
because this is serious, I shall be serious. Good night, everybody watching. I hope you've got some ideas about training in the future. And for government officials, if you're watching this, please take heart that there are some bikers out here that do want a better training and way of life, and not to be pushed down upon all the time. So thanks for watching, and see you all safe.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Yeah,
Very good.
that's what.
And
That just leaves us.
leaves us to say, you know, goodbye. Thank you for all the input, and don't forget,
Ride safe.
ride safe, ride
Invisible.
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 Cheers, guys.
Ta-da.
See you.